Hello and welcome back to Game Domain and the third installment of our top 5 Pokemon series. So far we've looked at and ranked our top 5 Generation 1 Pokemon as well as our top 5 Generation 2 Pokemon in this series. As we've stated in the previous 2 installments of this series, our goal is to count down the top 5 Pokemon in each of Pokemon's 7 generations leading up to the release of the now fairly controversial Pokemon Sword and Shield this November. The criteria followed in order to make this list is also very detailed, and we've stated it in our previous videos as well, which we will of course leave links to in the description below. The criteria for this list is partially based on our personal love for these Pokemon, but it's mainly based on battle prowess, design creativity and coolness, overall popularity, and some fan perception influence as well. The lone exception on this list is legendaries, as especially in the case of Generation 3, this list would otherwise be full of them if we didn't leave them off this list entirely. Since we're basing this list off the original Generation 3 titles, we'll also be excluding the mention of any Mega Evolved forms of these Pokemon. And with that being said, let's get into the number 5 entry on our countdown. Number 5. Sceptile. Coming in at number 5 is a member of arguably one of the strongest all-around starter trios in the entire series of Pokemon. While this starter trio certainly isn't among the most popular or the most nostalgic, the Generation 3 starter Pokemon are all incredibly formidable Pokemon to have throughout your playthrough of the Hoenn region. And one of the hardest parts about writing this list was our writer's strong attachment to all 3 of these starter Pokemon, as Hoenn was his first region and Sapphire was the first game he ever played through fully. But this list was put together with as little bias as possible, and so we had to resort to only putting 2 starter Pokemon on this list, just as we had on our Generation 2 Pokemon list as well as our Generation 1 Pokemon list. Certainly the most popular of the 3 Hoenn starter Pokemon, the Grass-type Sceptile is one that has gained its popularity and love through many different forms of Pokemon media. While much of its popularity was due to its appearance as Ash's starter for the Hoenn anime seasons, the cute little Treecko was just the starter that most people picked when starting off their Generation 2 campaigns. Whether they were playing through Sapphire, Ruby, or Emerald, the Grass starter line seemed to be the most popular of this generation, which is unusual in comparison to the previous 2 generations, where this case was the complete opposite. Sceptile is also a competitive menace, aiding players not just in their journey through the main story, but also being a fierce team member when you challenge the difficult battle frontier after the credits roll, which is one of the best post-game features in all of Pokemon. Sceptile's appealing design and fierce competitiveness on the battlefield blend to make it one of Generation 3's most beloved and revered pocket monsters, and that is what makes it find itself on this list as our 5th best Generation 3 Pokemon. Number 4. Metagross. The number 4 spot on today's list is going to be a member of the pseudo-legendary category of Pokemon, which we have defined and outlined in our previous 2 top 5 Pokemon videos. The Pokemon that this spot entails is widely known as one of the hardest Pokemon to obtain and fully evolve in all of Pokemon, especially in the original Generation 3 titles. And as our writers can attest to, back in a playthrough of the original games, it is pretty difficult to get a fully evolved form of this line in your party by the Elite Four. But even if you don't have one on your team, you are inevitably going to face this Steel-type giant in the Champions Room in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, being a member of Champion Steven's team. Metagross is a mechanized, robotic-like Steel Psychic type, and is arguably the most intimidating Pokemon you will face throughout the main storyline of the Generation 3 titles. This pseudo-legendary is Champion Steven's main champion, adding to its popularity among the fanbase, and making this Pokemon seem even tougher than it already is, being, of course, as we look back on our younger selves, struggling time and time again to take down this Pokemon. Metagross, one of the series' handful of genderless, non-legendary Pokemon, is also revered as a competitive menace all the way up to this generation. Being able to wield a powerful and wide-ranging array of both physical and special attacks, Metagross can be competitively bred to fit all types of battle styles and teams. Metagross's dual typing of Steel and Psychic also gives it a 4 times resistance to more than a few types, making it one of not just the generation, but the entire series' strongest defensive Pokemon. In the original titles, the baby form of the Metagross line, Beldum, was a fairly rare Pokemon to catch, making Metagross a hard Pokemon to obtain for your team. The difficulty of finding a Beldum is also coupled with the high level in which the middle evolution form, Metang, finally evolves into Metagross, being at level 45. This difficulty to not only obtain but to raise to a high enough level make Metagross a true pseudo-legendary that is only fit for the most accomplished of trainers. Metagross is not only a talented Pokemon all around, but its popularity and badass design make it one of Hoenn's best, as it finds itself in the number 4 spot on our top 5 Generation 3 Pokemon. Number 3. Aggron. The number 3 choice is yet another powerful Steel-type Pokemon, but this one just might have a little more fierceness in it than the previous entry. Aggron is a Pokemon that is a lot easier to obtain than most powerful physical hitters, being that its baby form, Aron, is available in a wide range of locations throughout the game, along with the middle evolution form, Lairon, if you want to take the easy way out and catch and raise the middle evolution form at a later point in the game instead of raising Aron from the beginning. Aggron's design is arguably the most unique and interesting in all of Generation 3, and its might on the battlefield makes that design look even better. Aggron is able to outduel almost any Pokemon you come across throughout the game, barring that you don't come across a powerful fighting type move that might knock you out in one hit. Aggron's violent natural tendencies are showcased in a few of its anime appearances, and it has always been perceived as almost the Pokemon equivalent to spotting a grizzly bear in the wild. And for those who haven't seen a grizzly bear in the wild, let's just say it's probably not the most entertaining event. Evolving from Lairon at level 42, Aggron is known as the Iron Armor Pokemon, and its name even showcases its defensive prowess. Aggron's Pokemon Ruby Pokedex entry even goes as far to describe Aggron in this way. Aggron claims an entire mountain as its own territory. It mercilessly beats up anything that violates its environment. This Pokemon vigilantly patrols its territory at all times. Aggron is another great defensive Pokemon to have on your team through a Generation 3 playthrough, and it's become a fairly popular Pokemon among the fanbase as of late, and has even gained more respect in the competitive aspect of the game. Aggron has good resistance to a large array of different type moves, with its only major weaknesses being fighting type and ground type attacks. This makes it a great partner not only for a Hoenn playthrough, but also for the Battle Frontier in the post-game. This Iron Armor Pokemon is also fairly attainable in Pokemon Go due to the abundance of errands throughout the world, making it easy to obtain enough candies to raise it up to an Aggron, giving you a strong member of your Pokemon Go squad. Aggron is feared among the Hoenn region, and that is just part of what makes it find the 3rd spot on our top 5 Generation 3 Pokemon. Number 2, Flygon. Now this spot is arguably going to be our most controversial choice throughout the video, but we certainly have the facts to back up our choice. The Pokemon taking up this number 2 spot is one of the most underappreciated and underrated Pokemon in the entire franchise, but it certainly does have the popular backing of the fans ever since this Pokemon's inception back in 2002. Overshadowed by Generation 3's more memorable Dragon-type Pokemon Salamence, Flygon is one of the series' all-around finest Pokemon. Its unique typing of Dragon and Ground give it one of the generation's most diverse move pools of any Pokemon, and even helps to make its design and visual appearance that much better and more memorable. Flygon is in an odd spot in the Pokemon universe, as the fans' love for this winged ground-type creature isn't really acknowledged as much as it should be. Fans have been expressing their devout love for this Pokemon ever since its initial appearance in the Generation 3 titles Ruby and Sapphire, and really, the only major acknowledgement of how great this Pokemon is comes from it getting a few very strong Pokemon trading cards, ones that have become pretty rare and sought after for competitive Pokemon card duelers. And how can we not talk about Flygon without bringing up its design, giving it one of the coolest and most unique looks in the entire series. Resembling a bipedal insectoid dragon, the Mystic Pokemon gives off a unique color palette, which makes the ins and outs of its design stand out tremendously. Flygon's slightly imperfect, diamond-shaped wings give it the appearance of a flying-type Pokemon, but its strong three-clawed hands make it known that this dragon type can burrow itself into the ground. Flygon has always been one of the Pokemon that us Pokemon fans wish would have found a spot on Ash's team back in the Generation 3 anime, but sadly we will never get this beautiful dragon type in a prominent anime role. But none of that can stop the fanbase's love for this fierce competitive dragon, as it is also fairly popular on present-day competitive teams, just as it was on the teams of Pokemon Masters playing through the original titles over 15 years ago. Flygon is an all-around strong Pokemon, finding itself in the company of the series' other super strong, non-pseudo-legendary Pokemon. And with all that said, Flygon finds its way as our second best Generation 3 Pokemon. Now, let's end all the suspense and see what Pokemon takes the number 1 spot. Number 1, Blaziken. Now, at this point in the list, there is probably at least one Pokemon that all of you viewers are questioning why it hasn't appeared yet. The funny thing is that half of you are probably thinking of one Pokemon, and the other half are probably thinking of another Pokemon. And so, that means that half of you will be disappointed to know that the Pokemon that you were looking to take the top spot won't be on the list. And the other half will be delighted with our choice. And with that said, the number 1 spot is going to be the pioneer of the firefighting starting Pokemon, Blaziken. Yes, of course, it's just cliche to have a starter Pokemon in the number 1 spot. But little do you guys know, Blaziken truly is Generation 3's best Pokemon. Being arguably the best starter back in the original Generation 3 titles, Blaziken has actually only gotten better in every generation since then, peaking in the Generation 6 titles of Pokemon X and Y, along with the remakes Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. This is actually a case of the complete opposite of Flygon's popularity, whereas the Pokemon community thinks Blaziken is a lot more popular than it was among the core fanbase, making it the headline of a lot of Pokemon trading card packs and steel boxes, as well as making it the only non-Gen 6 or Gen 1 starter Pokemon to receive a Mega Evolution in Pokemon X and Y. This would, of course, change with the Generation 3 remakes, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, as all Generation 3 starter lines had Mega Evolutions, but Blaziken already had its power enhanced in the previous installment. And back in Generation 5, Blaziken broke the competitive battling scene with the arrival of its Speed Boost ability. This essentially made Blaziken OP, and prompted major competitive Pokemon battling organizations like Smogon to ban it from competitive play altogether. All that makes Blaziken seem like a sure slam dunk for the best Generation 3 Pokemon, but we haven't even gotten to how good this Pokemon was back in its original generation, which is what this list is based off of. Matched up against every gym leader, rival battle, Elite Four members, and champion, Blaziken is your best bet as a starter Pokemon. Being a powerful physical attacker, Blaziken's fighting type moves pack a hard punch. This is coupled with Blaziken having the ability to learn basically every fire type move through either leveling up or by the use of TMs. Blaziken has always been the fierce and fiery competitor that it is revered as today, and the love from both the fanbase and the Pokemon Company is certainly well deserved. And that is what makes Blaziken our best Generation 3 Pokemon. So, what did you guys think of our third installment in the top 5 Pokemon series? Be sure to tell us what you thought of our list down in the comment section below, and feel free to give us your own top 5 Generation 3 Pokemon as well, as we would love to hear your thoughts. We also encourage you to check out our previous 2 top 5 Pokemon videos on the first 2 generations. We'll leave the links to those videos in the description. While you're down there, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And don't forget to check out some of our more recent videos, which we will leave links in the description for, as well as in our Patreon and our Discord. Check out our Patreon, where you can donate to our cause and contribute to the great videos that we make. Some benefits of becoming a Patreon member include seeing future videos a day early, as well as having your name displayed at the end of our content. Our Discord is open to you guys to come and chat with our staff members and each other about gaming, so don't be afraid to join. We have great discussions about gaming topics, and it's a great way to communicate and even play with fellow gaming fanatics and viewers of the channel. Down in the description, we also have the links to our merchandise stores, as there you can purchase an array of Game Domain merch ranging from mouse pads to even phone cases. We are now at around 25,000 subs, and we just want to thank you guys once again for all the love and support you've given us these past 3.5 years. Stay tuned to Game Domain for more great content, and thanks for watching today's top 5 Generation 3 Pokemon.